It's a moment fans were dreading, yet deep down, many knew it was coming. The name, Duke Gadd, has echoed through halls of respect, achievement, and quiet legacy. But today, that echo feels different. It's softer, sadder, because we now have confirmation. After weeks of rumors, speculation, and silence, the official cause of death for Duke Gadd has finally been released. This is not just another story. This is the closing of a chapter for a man whose life, though not always under the spotlight, impacted more people than we will ever know. From his quiet generosity to his fierce loyalty, from his brilliant mind to the demons he kept locked away behind closed doors. Today, we piece together what really happened. What led to the sudden passing of Duke Gadd? Was it natural, accidental, or something deeper? This is the full story. Raw, unfiltered, and told with the respect he deserves. Who was Duke Gadd? Before we talk about the end, just rewind to the beginning. Duke Gadd was not born into fame. He did not chase clout. He did not trend for the wrong reasons. He lived a life rooted in depth, talent, and mystery. Whether you knew him from the creative world, the business sphere, or the personal stories passed through friends, you'd know this. Duke was different, quietly brilliant, intensely private, loyal to a fault. Over the years, Duke earned respect in industries that rarely handed out. Some knew him as a strategic genius in the corporate world. Others saw him as a behind-the-scenes creative force who shaped stories without ever seeking credit. To a few close friends, he was the guy you could call at 2 a.m. and he'd actually show up. But behind all that quiet greatness was a man battling something most people never saw or chose not to. And now, after his unexpected passing, the truth behind those private battles is finally coming into the light. The day the news broke, it was a regular Tuesday. Social media was its usual mix of chaos and distractions. But then, it hit. Duke Gadd has passed away. No details, no warning, just silence. And then grief. Friends, family, former colleagues, they all posted tributes that did not just feel emotional. They felt confused because no one knew what had happened. Duke was not public about health issues. He was not known for wild behavior or reckless living. He just disappeared. In the hours that followed, the internet did what it always does. Speculation ran wild. Was it a heart attack? An accident? Was there foul play? Or worse, was it something self-inflicted? The silence from official channels only fueled the rumors. But behind the scenes, Duke's family was grieving and protecting. They wanted time. They needed answers too. And they were not going to rush out a statement just to satisfy curiosity. Now, weeks later, the full autopsy report has been made public. And what it reveals is tragic but important. The official cause of death, according to the finalized coroner's report, Duke Gadd died from complications related to acute respiratory failure brought on by an undiagnosed autoimmune condition. To put it simply, his immune system had turned against him. The condition, which medical experts believe had gone unnoticed for years, slowly wore down his respiratory system. It was not dramatic. It was not obvious. It was silent, creeping, and by the time symptoms became severe enough to notice, it was already too late. He had been experiencing chest tightness, fatigue, and shortness of breath in the final weeks. But in true Duke fashion, he kept it to himself. Whether out of fear, denial, or just not wanting to worry others, he didn't seek help until it was too late. When he was finally admitted to the hospital, doctors tried everything. Ventilators, steroid treatments, immune suppressants. But his body had already crossed a line it couldn't come back from. Duke passed away quietly in the early hours of the morning. He was surrounded by a few close friends and family members who had been notified just in time. According to those present, his final moments were peaceful. No pain, no fear, just release. What this illness really means, autoimmune diseases are often misunderstood. They're invisible for years. They hide behind normal symptoms, fatigue, shortness of breath, aches, and are often dismissed. But when they strike hard. In Duke's case, a particular autoimmune condition affected the lining of his lungs. Over time, it created scarring, known medically as pulmonary fibrosis. That scarring made it harder and harder for oxygen to pass into his bloodstream. And because he never talked about it, not even to his closest friends, there were no warning signs. One of his doctors, under anonymity, said that if Duke had come in just a few months earlier, there might have been options, treatments, life-saving drugs. But he didn't, and the reason why is something a lot of people can relate to. He did not want to seem weak. It's a quiet tragedy we see too often, especially with people who spend their lives taking care of others. Tributes pour in after the cause of death was released. Tributes began to pour in all over again, but this time they hit differently. Now people were not just mourning a man they loved, they were mourning what he endured, silently, privately. From business leaders to creatives, friends to strangers, everyone seemed to have a Duke story. Stories of late-night phone calls where he gave advice without ever bragging. Stories of generosity behind closed doors, of mentorship, quiet support, and genuine care. Some shared how he'd helped them when they were at rock bottom. Others revealed how he'd anonymously donated to causes he believed in, especially ones related to invisible illnesses. One tribute stood out. It came from an old friend who wrote, "Duke did not die because he gave up. He died because he gave everything he had Gadd to everyone else and never asked for anything in return. That one sentence captured the heartbreak and the legacy. The legacy left behind. Duke Gadd didn't live for applause. He was not about fame, likes, or clicks. He lived to create, to help, and to build things that lasted. Relationships, projects, communities. And even in death, he's leaving something behind. A reminder. A reminder to check in on the quiet ones. A reminder to listen when someone says they're just tired. A reminder that silence doesn't mean peace. It sometimes means pain. But most importantly, he leaves behind a challenge to live a little more like Duke, with compassion, with humility, with purpose. His passing is a loss we will feel for a long time. But it's also a moment of reflection, because now we know what took him, and now we can honor him, not just with words, but with action. Rest in peace, Duke Gadd. You gave more than most, and you deserved far more than what you got in return.